saying the number of the rabbit hole recap that we're
What number are
recording.
we on?
190, getting close to 200.
We're 10 away.
10 away. Unfortunately, we won't be at 200 by conference day, but
Never going to live that down.
I don't think. Hey, you called 200K by conference day. I called Peak Clown World. We all make mistakes.
You see that you got the mask mandate thing wrong too. You saw they extended it
Yeah,
on the
fucking
airplane.
assholes. We've got to.
I was like, I was pissed off when I saw it, but I also just like laughed because because of your prediction.
Yeah, if you haven't heard.
I was actually talking about 200K by conference day. I was just thinking about this the other day because Rabbit Hole Recap was formally announced at Bitcoin 2022. And I was thinking about my top call at Bitcoin 2019 when we
Made
closed out
everybody
Bitcoin
buy.
2019, and I had everyone stack, and it was at $13,000, and we didn't retake 13,000 for 2 years, and everyone just gave me shit for it. And meanwhile, that was 3 years ago, and 13K just seems so fucking cheap.
Right. Buy all the tops. That's what we'll say. That was a great. You posted the picture from that live that
Such a
live
good
rip.
rip.
You look like a baby in that. No beard,
Dude,
fresh
fucking
face.
Bitcoin ages you, man. I'm like 60 years old now.
I mean, the stash and the hat, or you're aging incredibly. This is what I like to see. You look like a seasoned boathouse casino dealer.
What
Yeah.
was that? That's what Justin Moon said. Who's the riverboat casino dealer on the right?
Yes. We've you can see I'm in a different spot in the room right now. The studio is coming together on this end. Like we've mentioned in episodes past, the supply chain issues have affected the build out of the studio here at the Bitcoin Commons in Austin, Texas. It's coming together though. We're gonna have it ready for South by Southwest next week.
I
Parker,
saw Parker last night. Um, Super fucking excited for Bit Devs plus Bitcoin Takeover at Bitcoin Commons on the 17th and then 18th.
yeah, we're gonna be in person next week doing this. It'll be
Yeah. So
fun.
what are we doing for that? Like, let's talk business on air. We're like 1 p.m. We'll do it at the Commons on Thursday
Yeah, we have to figure it out because we have that other event that we have to do.
at 3. All right.
Yeah.
So like I guess like 12:30 we'll do it.
Oh yeah. I would know. I would even give us some cushion to.
So we'll do it at 12 CT.
Yeah. Yeah. Give us 3 hours. We're gonna be in
Or do you
person.
want more cushion?
Yeah.
What?
I like 12. I like 12 Central. I think that'll give us
Okay.
enough
12
cushion.
Central, 12 Central next week, freaks. That is 1800 UTC. We will be together in person. Ripping Rabbit Hole Recap.
I still.
But you should all, especially if you're in the Austin area, you should come join us for Bit Devs on the 17th and Bitcoin Takeover at Bitcoin Commons on the 18th. It's going to be the agenda for Bitcoin Commons is fucking insane.
Yes. I will. The space of the Bitcoin Common stuff is limited, and I will say, we love all you freaks, but Parker is trying to get non-Bitcoiners in to get educated about Bitcoin. So
But
just
so
want to.
buy your tickets now if you want to come.
Yes.
He has the open ticket on this Twitter thread. If you go to Parker Lewis's Twitter thread right now and go buy it, then you can come.
Parker was a little dismayed at the engagement this tweet got. He texted me, thought he was shadow banned because this tweet didn't blow up. So
I love that. Everyone just assumes shadow banned as soon as they don't get engagement.
go blow it up, freaks. What a week. What a week. A lot has changed since last week. Blocks have been produced. Bitcoin has been sent. Sanctions have been levied. War is waged on. Is the war still going? Did they come to like peace talks? What happened yesterday?
The war is still going, Marty.
Okay. I figured.
Marty's a gold bug now.
I'm not a gold bug. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm not a gold
Boomer
bug.
Marty gold bug. I
I did.
sold all my Bitcoin on Marty's recommendation and just loaded into gold.
Oh, don't lie to the freaks. I never made a recommendation to buy gold.
Meanwhile, we we've just been focused on the wrong thing this whole time. Instead of being focused on Bitcoin, we should just been focused on nickel. I've been joking around that at this pace, we're going to change Bitcoin 2022 to nickel 2022.
Yes, I don't think you understand why we have the gold and the COMEX and nickel and silver on the list. That it's not like I'm trying to like be like gold's gonna pump. It's very
I don't
interesting.
know. It was a FOMO tweet.
It's no, it wasn't a FOMO tweet. It's more. I'm more interested in the plumbing behind the scenes and what's going on there.
I'm hearing from a birdie in the gold world that what happened to Nicolay
Nick, yeah,
on
I
the
spelled nickel
LME
wrong.
is currently taking place with gold and silver on COMEX. I don't know, like that could easily be a Peter Schiff tweet.
We'll get into it. There's a lot to talk about there, but we have to get to Clark's dashboard first. The price of Bitcoin is currently $39,225. I'm never gonna live that one down. One cuck buck's gonna get you 2,549 sats. We are currently sitting at a 744.5 billion market cap. We are at block height 726,741, approaching 19 million Bitcoin. We're officially 20,467 Bitcoin being mined away from hitting 19 million. What's the significance of that? Nothing. It's just a nice round number. We had a difficulty adjustment right before last week's show. Many blocks have been added to the ledger since then. We're currently 1,035 blocks away from the next adjustment, which is estimated to be on March 17th, 2022, and it's estimated to be a downward adjustment of 4.2% as of right now, and that's because blocks are coming in at 10 minutes and 27 seconds on average, which is 27 seconds above the 10-minute block production target. We are seeing 1,441 transactions in Clark's mempool. Samurai unspent Whirlpool capacity is over 4,400 Bitcoin, sitting at 4,402.7 Bitcoin, or 172.8 million cuck bucks worth of unspent value. Maybe we'll start on mining. It'll be interesting to see how like increasing energy prices and fuel prices affect the mining industry. I wonder if a lot of operations that are on grid specifically are going to be feeling the pain and like have their electricity provider increase their rates on them. Can't hear him. Can you hear him?
I muted myself. How the fuck did we go from negative $20 a barrel to $130 a barrel in like a year and a half?
Central planning.
That's fucking insane. That's fucking insane? Like it needs to be said that yes. how insane that fucking is. Talk about efficient markets. Super efficient.
Central planning does things. It fucks up the pricing mechanism of the world. I could see miners being affected by this increased electricity price. Maybe that's what we're seeing with the.
Of course, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? Energy goes up. That's like their main input.
Well, that's
like that, and the actual cost of the machines, right?
Yeah. It'll be. I mean, there's some people. If things continue down the path that they've been going on in the last 2 weeks, there's people calling for $200 barrel in oil, $300 oil. Things can get fucking intense. I mean, it's going to affect.
Fuck! I gotta sell all my gold, and now I gotta buy oil.
Do you want to start with that? Should we start with that?
What?
Which
one?
My little birdie tweet.
Yeah, your little birdie tweet.
So, if you freaks remember, back around when the price of oil went negative in March, April of 2020, around that time too, there is actually, if you want to go back and listen to the episode I recorded with Roy Sabag, we talked about the bullion markets, particularly the delivery of bullion between London and New York, where two of the biggest bullion vaults exist, and where a lot of the bullion trades happen, and they affect paper markets if things get out of whack. Back then, in
This was the
2020.
craziness in March 2020, right?
Yes, back
Or like
then.
April 2020.
Yeah, back then. They changed. I don't know if you freaks remember, but they did like things were getting so insane behind the scenes that they changed some of the wording and some of the structure of one of the contracts in Comex, which I believe allowed them to just like piggyback on the London bullion market, their vaults, which basically they essentially Comex got bailed out, and it seems like there is similar problems arising at Comex specifically this week. There's apparently a large player. Many people on the internet are speculating that JP Morgan, and I think there's data to confirm that it probably is them, is trying to cover short positions. So they're trying to buy bullion, whether it be silver or gold, as desperately as possible so that they can cover the margin on their short trades that they have out there, and they're willing to pay. There's rumors that they've been paying 10% over spot for bullion. If you look at the March contract, I put that in the TFTC group as well. Or it's in this thread somewhere. If you the Wall Street Silver tweet, the March 2022 contract, which is supposed to come to an end. You got to click the second tweet. I did bad Twitter threading, so go down a little bit more. No, don't click that one. Click the one above it. I responded to the one above it twice by accident. Go down. That tweet. Yeah, so if you look at this chart here, the March 2022 silver futures contract has gone absolutely AWOL off the chart. And see, there's something going on at Comex.
Oh, fuck. I got to sell my oil for silver.
I'm not saying go buy gold or silver. I'm just saying there could be.
Or nickel.
Well, so that's the thing. Like there is certainly something happening in the metals markets so nickel earlier this week was skyrocketing. There was a massive short squeeze, and I believe it was Comex, one of the exchanges, the exchanges that
wasn't the London Mercantile Exchange.
Yeah, LME? It was London. So London stepped in and they basically bailed out and rug pulled nickel traders that day, or they retroactively, I believe, in the middle of the day. So we're not recognizing any trades that happened past 12 midnight the night before. So like they were allowing people to trade throughout the day. People were making a shit ton of money, and then like at some point in the afternoon, they're like, you know what? Actually, we're not going to recognize any of those trades. And so the pricing mechanism is completely fucked. Obviously, the powers that be are stepping in and not allowing free markets to have true price discovery in the metals markets right now. Who knows if they can keep plugging the dam? Obviously, there was rumors that the Bank of International Settlements and even like the plunge protection team that we have here in the United States have been stepping in, trying to bandage over these precious metal markets, and not even precious metals, just metal markets in general. And so again, like I said in the tweet, I'm not like saying go buy gold, buy silver. There's something structurally happening. Obviously, you can see here the price isn't running or anything like that. But
you like top ticked it,
right? Well, that's the thing. Like I think that's the aggressiveness with which there was a reaction.
Thanks for the Zoom car.
I don't know. I trust my source, my birdie in the industry. And
was your source just on your podcast?
I'm not gonna not going to.
I haven't listened to that episode yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Not going to give any indications one way or the other. But again, like I said in the second tweet in that thread, just something looking at Comex this week. There could be something going on. My bet is if there is something going on, somebody's just going to push.
Hold by end of week.
Somebody's gonna print a bunch of money and paper over it, but it does seem like there's some forces behind the scenes.
How do you even buy nickel?
Never done it. You go to the store, you buy something, you get some change. They're still giving change out these days. Aren't they trying to
say what?
Aren't they trying to like abandon coins here?
Well, the actual nickels only have 25% nickel in them. Yeah, I went down the nickel rabbit hole a little bit.
What did you find? What else did you find?
I told you I dumped all my Bitcoin for nickel, and then I dumped it for gold, and then I dumped it for silver, and now I'm in oil.
Well, would you? Can you at least concede that it's an interesting story if there is something structurally? Like, I'm not like saying go buy any of these things. Just
No, yeah, I mean it should be interesting to see play out. I think we're obviously in interesting times that no one really knows what the fuck is going on. So there's like craziness happening, as was witnessed in the nickel market, which just like traded like a complete shitcoin. But I will say that gold bugs have been saying similar shit for the last like 3 decades. So
yeah, I mean, and if you listen to Larry
take it
Lepardle,
with a grain of
he
salt.
mentioned, yeah, I mean, and this has been their theory, and like, and come to defense of our brethren in the gold world who truly want sound money. They may not agree with Bitcoin, and we definitely don't agree with gold, but we do have the common guiding star of sound money in the digital age. And I mean, this is their theory that the paper markets have been suppressing true price discovery in these precious metals markets. And it would be interesting to see if that becomes laid bare at some point in the near future. Like Matt said, they've been saying this for decades. My bet is, again, they'll be able to paper over it, literally and figuratively. And I don't know if they can't allow this type of shit to happen, but who knows with what's going on. The international stage, there's rumors that, or not rumors, the sanctions that were just enacted on Russia this week. Part of that was like people are calling for central banks that are holding their physical gold outside of Russia not to actually give it to them. We're going to rug pull them like we did Afghanistan earlier this year, and Venezuela in years past as well. So very interesting times. Do we lose him?
No, I'm here.
Yeah.
My fucking internet is out here.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're grainy.
So I've been on mobile. I've been on mobile the whole time. When my internet comes back, I'll switch.
How's your internet? I thought you got that hot fiber.
I do have that hot fiber, but it's out.
Hmm. Yeah.
They said it'll be up soon. We'll see.
Okay. I'm looking for my phone so I can get to the list. What do we have on the list? Do you have the list up? Ooh, executive order.
Yeah.
I mean, we prepared you freaks for this. If you came and listened to the show,
Absolutely nothing.
we told
Complete bullshit.
that's what we said. That's what we've been saying for weeks now. There's been the looming specter of this executive order from the Biden administration for probably well over a month now. There was rumors when it first came out that it was just going to be the Biden administration calling for studies, and that's exactly what happened. There were, I think, Rep. Tom Emmer actually he had an interesting thread. If there was like any sort of subliminal, not subliminal, but if you're going to read between the lines and try to draw some conclusions, it is interesting that there's no mention of decentralized crypto assets or ensuring that these are free and open
I don't think
source.
they say Bitcoin once.
No, they don't say Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies, and then there's no. They're supported through a distributed ledger technology, but there's no sort of reinforcement of hey, we're going to ensure that these systems remain free. So, like, but you've been saying, I mean, is this the front run where they just set the stage here, and then down the line when these studies come out, that's when the real battle begins?
Yeah, I mean they got to start somewhere, right? But to me, this just reads like a bunch of buzzwords put on a piece of paper just to tell their constituents, "Hey, look, we're paying attention to it. We're doing tech things."
We're doing it. We're doing it. Yeah, and I actually I forget who said this earlier this week, but I think the pace at which the federal government is going to be able to move on this stuff is in our favor as Bitcoiners. I don't think they're going to be able to move fast enough to legislate outside of executive orders to actually perturb the development of the open source project itself. With that being said, we'll certainly come after miners And I do believe at some point in the future they will try to make it impossible for you to get coins off an exchange and into wallets you control. So that's one thing I've been beating the drum on this week. Like, do not be complacent about getting your Bitcoin into wallets that you control. If you're out there,
100%.
you're one of those people, go download a wallet on your phone, start testing, get comfortable, seek out other options, seek out help. Do not be complacent.
It's easier than you would expect.
Yes. Yes. Much easier. Literally download an app. It creates private public key pair for you. Very easy. Yeah, what do you think about the executive order? Anything else to add to that?
No, I think it's not really even worth discussing further. Okay. Just a bunch of bullshit.
Right. We've got
a lot of buzzwords.
A lot of buzzwords. Visa, MasterCard suspending operations in Russia over the Ukraine invasion. The invasion of Ukraine.
And PayPal.
And a lot of corporations. It's not just these payment rails. You've had, we mentioned Steam last week. There's a number of others that have entered the fray throughout the last week, including Zoom. We had DuckDuckGo's founder come out and completely ruin the reputation of his company today by saying that they're going to.
That was so fucking sad, man.
Right. So if any of you are unaware, the CEO of DuckDuckGo at Yegg, YEGG on Twitter, basically came out. I mean, DuckDuckGo, for anybody who's unaware, is supposed to be a search engine that competes with Google, but is better than Google because it actually gives you, it doesn't try to censor results or tune their algorithm to
more
to
privacy
give you,
focused is the key.
It's more privacy focused.
And then also the algo's not fucking around with you.
Yes, until today. Like so many others, I'm sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I'm sickened by it as well. And the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. Hashtag I stand with Ukraine. At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. Which is like, okay, now you're manipulating your algo. You're playing the great fact checker, which
the censorship game.
Yeah, let people get the information.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
And discern for themselves. And so DuckDuckGo has been politicized.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know of any other really good options. So we'll see. Hopefully some people recommend some good options. I've pretty much switched fully over to DuckDuckGo. I've liked it a lot lately. So this is definitely disappointing. Maybe they'll roll it back. I still think, this is more than just sanctions, right? This is this idea of, it's like cancel culture mixed in. It's modern cancel culture mixed into sanctions, where these companies are going above and beyond to essentially get like virtue signal points by cutting out the Russian market. And I think also like a secondary reason for it is that the Russian market probably just isn't that large. So they think they can, like, if you look at like MasterCard's revenue, I bet you it's like single digit percentages is in Russia. Like you wouldn't see them do this to China, or like you see Apple stores wouldn't close in China, even though they do tons of human rights abuses because the market is so massive there. But I still think the best example of just how insane all of this is that the FIFA video game removed the Russian team from it. So you can't play with the Russian team. Like that's just really, I feel like encompasses like how absolutely fucking crazy it is.
Well, and I tweeted out earlier this morning, it's incredibly astonishing to watch a bunch of the corporations who were virtue signaling about the BLM movement in the summer of 2020 when all those riots were going on. And now maybe racism isn't the correct term, but you have this woke capital corporatocracy coming out and being like overtly prejudiced is probably a better word against Russian citizens, and not allowing them, like apparently it's okay to be prejudiced against a person if they have a certain nationality in the corporate world now. Obviously they're posturing like it's to hurt Putin and what he's trying to do. but it's just going to embolden him. Like this is what he's telling the Russian people right now. It's like, look at these evil Westerners. Like you need to trust me. Like, it's just pushing people closer to a dictator. And then on top of that, you know, you're cutting off Russian citizens with Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, specifically from their money. And maybe some of them are trying to get out of the country. Maybe some of them are out of the country already and trying to do things, and they can't do those things because these corporations have decided to be prejudiced against anybody who happens to be Russian. Murky waters.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, cutting people off from the internet is not cutting people off from the global financial system, cutting people off from access to the internet, where we saw like Namecheap pulling their domains. Cloudflare, actually, which is a company I despise because they have a large amount of they middleman by design a large amount of traffic on the internet. Had a really good post on it about why they weren't canceling Russian accounts, and then the reason was they were like, now more than ever, Russian citizens need to have access to information that's outside of Kremlin control and outside of Russian control. So it's extremely short-sighted. Maybe some people will be angry at Putin for it within Russia, but you got to imagine that there's going to be like, if you're like 16 to 25 in Russia and you've just lost everything, like you're never going to forgive Western companies, right? Like they've just been fully radicalized.
Yeah, yeah, it's completely short-sighted. I mean, everything that's going on with this whole situation, from the federal government's reaction to the the woke capital reaction, is just completely short-sighted. There's literally no long-term thinking with these strategies, unless it is. I mean, that's another theory that's going around, and like everybody in the West and like Russia are playing together, like funnel us into this separate CBDC world, and this is just a, a conflict ignition to start that trend or accelerate that trend. But yeah, like it's like, and then one thought that would lead me to believe that that may be true is like just how incompetent the reaction is across the board, where it's like almost astonishingly idiotic. Where it's like, what the fuck is going on here? It's almost too good to be true.
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't. It should be interesting to see how everything plays out.
Yeah, being we said it last week. Larry Lepard echoed it in the episode that we recorded on Monday. Very, very good rip. But yeah, I mean, the U.S. dollar is currently suffering a massive head wound. It got shot in the head via this whole situation, and we're going to see a mass bifurcation in the world. Ray Dalio saying China is going to come up and they're going to be reserve currency, but I don't think he's factoring Bitcoin into that equation at all in his thinking. And it's been weird. It seems before this whole Russian thing even broke out, he was already trying to suck up to the Chinese government and the CCP with comments he was making publicly about not
I
caring.
saw Larry recommended mandibles too.
Yeah, yeah. What's our Matt Odell mandibles correlation update this week?
There was a freak that says he stacks 1,000 sats every time I say mandibles on the pod, so I wanted to make sure that he just stacked twice.
Are the mandibles correlations getting eerier and eerier as time goes on?
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with Parker yesterday at the Nashville Bitcoin meetup, where I asked him, he has his gradually then suddenly series. And I was like, are we in the suddenly phase yet? Or are we still in the gradually phase? What does the suddenly phase look like, and how scared should we be?
I think we may be in the suddenly phase, bro.
I think that might be a peak Clown World call.
I don't know, dude. See the CPI print today?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. What was it, 7.9%? Highest in
7.9%.
40 years.
Highest in 40 years and underreported. I believe the shelter numbers was something like 3.2% year on year. And if you've looked at the housing market anywhere, that's just an insultingly low number that they're trying to put out here. I thought Kaylee was going to come in. Kaylee, hardest working woman at Unchained. She's crushing it here at the Commons, helping us set it up. She can't hear this. Maybe she'll listen later and hear it. But back to
Don't
the inflation.
shoot her.
What was that?
I said don't shoot her.
I won't. I would never shoot Kaylee. CPI, 7.9%, highest in 40 years. Last month was the highest in 40 years. So we're just getting, and last month, was 7%, I believe. This month is 7.9%. And it's only going to get worse from here with the sanctions going on. Russia's come out in the last week. They say, all right, anybody on our shit list, we're not going to export grains to you. We're not going to export natural gas. We're not going to export fertilizer. We're not going to export palladium. You're cut off until 2023. So Russia, at least right now, is posturing like they're not going to export any of their commodities to people on their shit list. Europe, US, NATO countries definitely on that shit list. And people are like, oh, they're only 2% of the global economy or global GDP. It doesn't matter. US doesn't have much direct trade.
Their GDP is less than Texas, Marty.
Well, again, GDP doesn't matter. GDP in a financialized world is bullshit. Assets matter. Having palladium.
I'm just saying that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but like that's how financial. Like
their GDP is equivalent to Greece.
But
it's less than Texas. That was pre-war.
But they have all the assets, and that's really what matters during all this. So like we're gonna see, like you said, like I wouldn't be surprised if my suddenly call does not turn out to be like my Clown World call.
We're gonna change the name of the show to Gold Bug Recap.
What? I didn't mention gold at all. Why are you bringing Gold Bug? But I mean, dude, they're literally shutting that. And so going back to that, like, yes, Russia, 2% of GDP, but they have at least 10% of many of the main commodities in the world: palladium, wheat, natural gas, oil, a number of things. And yes, even if we don't do direct trade with Russia,
nickel too, right?
Nickel for any of those things, they're cutting off people who do direct trade with them for those things. That's going to make the competition for those assets with the producers that we currently do buy them more fierce. So it's going to drive up prices. And then you have rising energy. We've already talked about oil. The cost of oil, natural gas going up is going to make the cost for people producing things to go up. And then you're going to see a breakdown in the manufacturing sector because input prices are just going to get so high that it's not going to be profitable to actually build shit. And then you have a cascading fucking shit show, which is we may be at the very beginning of the suddenly phase, which is heavy to think about and it's scary to think about, but be aware, freaks. Like, this is what happens when you have incompetent people trying to centrally plan economies across the world, and they are engaged in a proxy war where they're just dick measuring against each other, not really caring about the citizens that are affected by their dick measuring contest.
Parker didn't think we were in the suddenly phase yet. He thought we were at the end of the gradual phase. And I tend to agree with that. I mean, I know that's like a little bit semantics. But,
isn't that the beginning of this? Isn't the end of the gradually phase the beginning of this?
No, I think when the suddenly phase hits, it's going to fucking smack us in the fucking face. You know, It's going to be like, I don't think we've seen anything yet.
No.
Also, now that I'm a precious metals expert, I've been told that palladium is a byproduct of nickel production. They're heavily correlated, supposedly.
Yeah.
If that helps the freaks at all. I don't know if that helps, but that's my random fact of the day.
And apparently Russia has 11% of the global oil supply, 17% of the global nat gas supply, 11% of global PM production, which is precious metals, 11% of global wheat production, and 10% of global L&D minerals, industrial minerals production. Shout out to Jevy for throwing that stat in the comments. It's a material amount of assets. Like in a financialized world, 2% of GDP.
How much does Texas have?
I think we have.
Jevy, look how much Texas have.
He's pulling that from a tweet that was posted. I think I retweeted it. So I don't know if he has that information at his fingertips, but it would be impressive if you do, Chevy. Shit's getting real. We're gonna find out. Like, do you really? What do you want as a society? A economy with a hollowed out manufacturing base, but sick fintech apps and social media apps, or do you actually want an economy that is secure with raw materials and commodities and assets that actually make this modern world that we live in possible? I think we're gonna have a lot of confrontation with these thoughts and ideas.
So how do the freaks prepare if this is the end of the gradual phase?
Go shake your local rancher's hand. Go shake your neighbor's hand. If you don't know your neighbors, get to know your neighbors. Obviously, stack sats. Get the multi-exchange. And start building.
Guns, land, and Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah. And beef. Secure your beef now. Again, I don't want to turn into like a doomer podcast.
Kind of are.
Like, how would we feel if we didn't say this stuff and it did happen? Would we be doing a disservice to the freaks? What's something positive?
100%.
What's the next positive list on the item on the list? Wow.
The coin is up. Oh yeah, I like that. I have one. Twitter added Tor support finally, which is something that Facebook had done like in 2014. And what this means is that they have a native onion address now that you can use Twitter natively through Tor, which is diametrically different than their existing policy, which was that they were constantly flagging accounts that were accessing via the Tor ClearNet exit nodes. But what their claim for this, and it does make sense logically, is that it allows Russians to continue to have access to Twitter even if the Russian government and ISPs block it. So this is the kind of thing that we should be seeing Western companies do rather than try and cut off Russia. They should be giving Russian citizens more global access rather than less.
Yes. Props where props are due. Shout out to Twitter for doing this. And Jevy, fucking man with the fast fingertips. Texas had 6.5% of global crude oil production in 2020. It's a material amount for a nice little state that I live in. Happy to be in Texas. I can say
so
that.
So that's about half of Russia's production.
Yes. But you also have Biden coming out this week, and these fucking incompetent assholes in the White House. Again, I don't want to get political, red versus blue, whatever, but like it is objective. Like, these people are fucking either stupid or malicious in terms of energy policy. Like, they're coming out. You have Pete Buttigieg, the CIA spook that is our transportation director.
Mostly stupid.
Come out and say people need to buy. This is why gas prices are going up. Go buy a Tesla. Go spend $60,000 on a Tesla, and like that electricity, it's cheaper to charge your Tesla than it will be to fill your car. But these idiots don't realize that natural gas prices are going up. Most of the things that power these Tesla power stations are natural gas fucking facilities.
I'm pretty sure the batteries have nickel in them.
Yeah, they have nickel. They have silver. Lithium.
Do you know how much nickel's in a Bitcoin ASIC?
No, I can't tell you off the top of my head. But I'm probably going to learn
look
that.
It up.
They're saying, and then they're trying to blame the oil and gas industry. You have Elizabeth Warren coming out and saying that oil and gas producers are gouging consumers by raising prices. Like, these people don't understand fundamental economic concepts, supply and demand, adjusting prices as the market changes, as supply dwindles and conditions change. I don't think the oil and gas industry is trying to, I know the oil and gas industry isn't trying to gouge consumers. They're reacting to market signals that they have to, if they actually want to be able to deliver shit to market and run businesses profitably. And Elizabeth Warren saying she's going to have a profit clawback from oil and gas companies that are profiting from the rise in oil and gas prices, which is communistic. It doesn't make any sense. And it's hypocritical. Are you going to take profit takebacks from Pfizer and Moderna based on the vaccination campaign that just went on? Like, why don't we do it like the whole COVID vaccination campaign was supposed to be a critical necessity for individuals. Should Pfizer and Moderna have been able to profit as much as they did off of that? Are you going to claw back those profits too? Like, where is the logical consistency? These people don't even know how to think. They have no critical thinking skills. They don't understand economics. They don't understand markets. They are destroying this country and putting the whole world in a very precarious situation because they are fucking stupid and incompetent. They don't understand anything. They are sociopathic kleptocrats who don't care about you. They don't give a fuck about you, freaks. They're actively working to make your life worse off, to make you more insecure, to make you more dependent on their incompetence. It is time to walk away from these people. I think we need to have a serious discussion about abolishing the federal government and just having states run things from here on out. Please, leave us alone, federal government. You're ruining everything. Can we get back to a positive topic?
Next topic. I turned off I only have this on, so I can't see the list because I think it's hurting my internet connection.
You're coming in very clear now. So this is Azteco news. Car, if you could zoom in on that. Azteco has launched, been on the move the last couple of weeks. They have 600,000 cash-in locations in Nigeria. They're in every post office in Canada. Brad Mills did a nice demo. He had a tweet thread. He went to Canada, bought $1,000 worth of sats using Azteco. In
Canada, it's the post offices. It's the 6,000 post offices.
Yeah, I said it. Are you listening?
No, not really. I'm exhausted. I apologize.
Come on, man. Come on, once a week. We just need your attention for a couple hours once a week.
I'm exhausted. You're just going to I'm going to have you take the lead on this episode.
Okay, I'll take the lead. I'll step up. Yeah, so Azteco, I mean, shout out to Beauty on the team there, and Mike and everybody who's been working to. I think Azteco's been around for a while. A lot of people have doubted that they'll ever go big, and the last few weeks specifically, they've come out swinging. They've been working behind the scenes, obviously, to set up an infrastructure for a massive launch, and they've executed on that, and it's beautiful to see. I mean, Brad Mills was able to buy 1,000 cuck-bucks worth of, or Canadian cuck-bucks worth of sats.
Canuck
bucks via Azteco. No KYC, no AML. You just walked into government-owned post office like, yeah, I'm going to get my Bitcoin here.
So the way Azteco works in these situations is you go to the Azteco website, you print out a voucher, and then you take that printed out voucher to the pay point. The merchant scans it, you pay the merchant cash, and then you receive an email with the voucher for you to sweep your Bitcoin withdraw your Bitcoin into a self-custody wallet.
Yeah.
So the actual merchant doesn't really know you're buying Bitcoin. They just know that they're scanning this QR code. It's like similar to like mobile phone vouchers. So I guess a lot of these merchants already support the mobile phone vouchers, already support the gift card vouchers, and Azteco just kind of latches on to that existing infrastructure, so they don't have to actually roll out their own infrastructure.
Yeah.
I do think the no KYC aspect is probably not going to last that long. So, I mean, take advantage of it while you can. Like Azteco's basically liability strategy is, at least from my perspective, seems to be they offload the liability onto the individual merchants. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. But, hopefully I'd love to see more, no KYC options. So I wish them the best and hope it works out. But regardless, don't think you can necessarily count on this long term. You should be FOMOing it.
Well, maybe in the Western world. I mean, 600,000. Like, I'm more excited about this in the developing world, like Nigeria.
Yeah, the Nigeria one is big news.
Yeah, we're fucked here in the West. Nigerian brothers and sisters fucking run with it.
But Nigerian government doesn't like Bitcoin.
Yeah, but they don't seem like the most organized over there either.
No, definitely not.
Um,
But you
Niger-
did just have a long rant about the U.S. government not being fully incompetent as well. So
yeah, that's true. But Nigerians have proven to be Nigerian citizens have proven to be very savvy and
yeah, very
creative.
resourceful.
Yeah, so I think they'll find a way.
Didn't Nigerian government like do like a full ban at one point, or like close to a full ban on Bitcoin?
They tried to
I mean,
during
I know it wasn't effective during the protests,
The SARS protest, yeah, which was a woman's protest, not SARS, the respiratory.
unrelated to the virus.
Yes,
Wasn't it police? It was anti-police.
I think so. Yeah, it was like a women's rights march. I think, from what I recall. Um, Good news: Bitcoin helping the Ukraine military, or Ukrainians buy military equipment.
So the only reason I put this here was because I thought it was interesting that the army says that 40% of the military gear they just bought with, they said crypto, not Bitcoin, but they bought with crypto directly rather than converting it, which is just like, it's an interesting circular economy
yeah,
thing.
yeah, the arms dealer's like, yeah, we'll take your Bitcoin.
Yeah, I wonder like how much of it, like I would love to know what the breakdown is, because they raised ETH, they raised Tether, they raised Bitcoin, and then like the shit corners really came out. I think Justin Sun gave them a bunch of Tron, and uh, Gavin,
Gavin Wood.
the one that had that, yeah, Gavin Wood gave them Polkadot. So I
I
wonder which ones they spent. If it was like the USDT they spent, or if it was the Bitcoin. It doesn't really say.
I did see a breakdown of, I think Ether was the most donated, Bitcoin second, Tether third, and the rest of the shit coins after that.
I mean, Gavin Wood gave, I think, $5 million worth of Polkadot to the Ukrainian army. But anyway, that isn't that number way higher than you expected, that they spent 40% directly rather than converting it.
Yeah, it was surprising, and like you said, it highlights the growing circular economy. More people, more merchants are accepting Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. It's saying, hey, more people are willing to take it and hold it. I mean, is that surprising given what's going on? Maybe they had to because of all the sanctions that were being levied at some point. Yeah, well, they're buying it in the Ukraine. Ukrainians are buying it, so they're not sanctioned. But there's millions of people around the world. I had a conversation yesterday. Like, there's just these compounding events. You have the Canadian trucker convoy. Trudeau freezing bank accounts there. You roll that right into this, where central banks across the world are like, Russia, your accounts with us, we're seizing all that money or freezing it. And it's just, you have example after example after example of the value prop of Bitcoin and a distributed cash system. It's like, oh, I mean, this is why it exists. There's millions of people around the world, potentially billions, waking up to and understanding more innately the value prop and the utility that Bitcoin provides, and why we've been talking about it for years, and why we think it's so important moving forward. This is like, Bitcoin doesn't need a marketing team. There's many people out there thinking that we need to be better marketers, but there are no better Bitcoin marketers than the tyrants and sociopathic elite of the world, who are unable to keep themselves away from the button that controls other people's money.
Yeah, I mean, water doesn't need marketing. When people realize the need for Bitcoin, they'll figure it out.
And they are all over the world. We mentioned it earlier. Elizabeth Warren crafting a bill targeting cryptocurrency in Russian sanctions. She's the worst, man. Remember when
She's literally like on the wrong side of every fucking topic. It's just whenever she says something, you can just pretty much assume the opposite.
How can the
It's the
people in
better course of
Massachusetts?
action.
How can the people in Massachusetts keep voting for this woman? She literally lied and told us all she was Native American.
I don't know, Marty. We have a lot of horrible politicians.
That's true. She has
She
no
has one of the
character.
worst.
She's like the worst character. She's a bad person.
Do we even live in a free country anymore?
No. US, UK, and EU govs are just better at cosplay incompetence. Yeah, it's true. Let's go to shout outs. We got good shout outs. I missed a shout out 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry for this. The freak reached out to me. I remember reading it. I thought I read it on there, but we've got a revised shout out to make it more contemporary. The other one was a bit stale. Midwest Bitcoin meetup scene is crazy strong. Shout out to over 12 Bitcoin only meetups between 5 states. Michigan has Detroit, Jackson, and Benton Harbor. Ohio, Toledo, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, and Cleveland. Indiana has the Indianapolis meetup. Kentucky has Lexington and Louisville. And Pennsylvania, my home state, has Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, my home city. I'm adding that color there. If you or know friends and family in the Midwest, join us by finding these groups on meetup.com, Twitter, Matrix, and Bitcoin TV. Big love to everyone who joins and organizes these events, and bless all the BBQ we share. Steak and love. Truly grateful we could do it. We couldn't do it without you. So shout out to everybody going to these meetups. More meetups popping up. This is bullish. Like to see more meetups. Let me pull.
Fucking love meetups. I love seeing how everything is growing meetup wise all over the country, all over the world. Like I said earlier, we had Nashville Bitcoiners yesterday. It was fucking massive. Tons of people there. Vibes were high. People came from all over different states, from all over the country. We had people from Texas there. We had people from New York, Wyoming, Kentucky, Alabama. Shout out Rocket City Bitcoiners in Huntsville. It's fucking awesome. I love meetups. Off the record, no pictures, no recordings, as it should be.
Keep going to meetups, freaks. They're a great experience. Great experience all around. Austin Bit Devs next Thursday night during South by Southwest. Be there or be square if you're in the city. Next shout out. You were a fucking moron. You often espouse ideas that seem to be based on your somewhat newfound wealth, making you feel far more important and relevant than you could ever possibly be. You don't read as coming from a background of significance or worth mentioning. Where was that education from, Marty? Glad you have a little bit of money. I'm sure it's a lot to you. Maybe just shut the fuck up, though. I'll be unsubscribing, cunt. Just kidding. I fucking love y'all. Never change and keep doing what you do. Really appreciate the alternative perspectives from London Paul and Matt Mazinxius. Important reminder that as much as we distrust our own leaders, that does not mean we shouldn't recognize propaganda from it. Comes at us from all angles. Stay vigilant, freaks. David. Agree there. That's what.
So you were just bullshitting on Twitter?
What do you mean?
That's the clip you posted on Twitter, right?
What
or is
clip?
this someone aped that one?
Someone.
That first part that you read.
Yeah,
first part you read.
That was an email. That was an email I got in response to a bent. I said.
Oh, and someone rewrote it in the shout out.
Yes.
Got it.
I posted that because I just thought I truly thought it was hilarious. I get hate mail all the time. I thought this one particularly was fun. I think the added.
Yeah, it was fucking insane.
The added unsubscribing cunt was hilarious.
So this guy just mirrored that, right?
Yes.
It was like the exact same wording.
Yeah. A joke.
Well, shout out Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Also, before I forget, 6102 Bitcoin, our boy 6102. He's still out there. He's just not on Twitter. He has a Bitcoin meetups page too, bitcoin-only.com/meetups. So if you want to look for a good, solid Bitcoin meetup in your area, go to that website, bitcoin-only.com/meetups. And if you don't see one, consider starting one. Got to start somewhere. Start
them. We want Bitcoin meetups everywhere. Teach people how to download wallets and send Bitcoin off the exchange, or to buy Bitcoin off without an exchange. Matt, I'm going to let you take this one. This is one of your favorite subjects. How come you don't set up an Urbit group for the freaks?
Because Urbit's a shitcoin.
I knew he was going to say it. Urbit, I have an Urbit account. An Urbit
shitcoiner
planet. Tested out. I like the Urbit team. They're building Bitcoin stuff there. I think it's an interesting project.
The planets are basically NFTs, and they're pre-mined NFTs, right?
I think so, yeah. Namespaces is what they describe them as. I mean, I think I think many in the Urbit project regret the way they did the namespace
Umbral
stuff.
just added Urbit.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I have a lot of respect for the Urbit team, though.
Do you ever use Urbit?
I haven't in a while, honestly, if I'm being honest, but I have before in the past. It is a cool concept. I mean, they're trying to do something similar to like Star9 Labs with their embassy suite, just taking a completely different approach. But the goal
I
there,
think it's completely different than Start9 or Umbral.
I mean, it is, but I think the end goal is similar, where they want people owning their data and their compute on their own machines, their own hardware. Got to read the shout outs. I didn't expect to talk about Urbit, but we've got good friends.
You've had Urbit shows on the pod.
We did. Bitcoin Sign Guy is a big Urbit guy is coming. He showed it as well. And
Yeah,
I
but
did.
didn't you have like someone else from the Urbit team on?
I don't think so. I did something for them last summer when they announced their Bitcoin wallet integration. They built their own Bitcoin wallet, integrated into Urbit, and I participated in that, like interviewed them for their own showcase.
Shitcoiner.
God. I'm going to get hate mail over that. You got to read the
Over
shout
what?
outs. The Urbit stuff. Yeah,
I just witnessed you defending a shitcoin, so
I think it's an interesting. Yeah, God damn it. I can't even.
how many shitcoins is Marty gonna shill this episode? He's already shilled oil and gold, and nickel,
I didn't shill Urbit. Somebody
palladium.
paid for a shout
Wheat.
out. Wheat. They're all outperforming Bitcoin right now, dude.
It's true. I mean, look, if you're not pricing your Bitcoin in nickel, you're short nickel.
It is weird that Bitcoin's been in this weird consolidation phase for quite some time, and it's a great stacking opportunity. So take advantage of it while it still lasts. Who knows? It could be better stacking opportunities in the future. I have no idea which way the price is going and when, but just an observation, a retrospective on the price consolidation we seem to be in for months now. Interesting. FTX on their compliance and surveillance protocol. What did you think about this? You took a screenshot. You shared it in a tweet.
This was crazy. So both FTX and Coinbase are scared about being labeled by like Elizabeth Warren and others as enabling sanctions evasion. So for the first time, like these companies, when they do their like KYC, AML compliance and surveillance measures, they almost never talk about their protocols publicly. Right. So the fact that they came out and just like these are things that we know that they do already, that is often speculated, that is often talked about, but to actually hear it directly from their mouths, their policies and how they do it, I think is a very unique situation. They almost never talk about this stuff publicly, but they feel like their backs are against the wall. So they want everyone to know like how great they are at spying on their users and controlling their users. My internet is, as I said, is not great because I'm on mobile right now. Car, you want to pull up the FTX one? Marty, what I'd like you to do is, can you just read this thread to the freaks on
yes,
the podcast
sir.
feed?
Can you zoom in, please, Car? All right, so it starts out how crypto exchanges enforce U.S. sanctions. 1, we collect identifying information of every user, including name, date of birth, phone number, social security number, and photo ID. We cross-check the info against government databases to ensure veracity. For example, name matches social security number. If we can't verify an identity, the user is rejected and prohibited from trading. Again, this is Brett Harrison from FTX. If a user's identity is fully verified, we then check the name against all sanctions list and watch lists, including Treasury's OFAC list, the Department of Justice's FBI wanted list, and UN's consolidated sanctions list. If found, the user is rejected and prohibited from trading. We monitor the user's fiat transactions. If we detect a deposit is coming from or withdrawal is going to a sanctioned bank or other blacklisted source, we block the user's activity. We monitor the user's crypto deposits, withdrawals. I can't say that word. Using on-chain risk analysis and transaction monitoring tools such as at TRM Labs. First time I'm hearing that one. We use the same transaction monitoring tools the government agencies use. Continued. These tools have databases of known sanctioned addresses, heuristics that determine geographic locations, and machine learning algos that identify suspicious patterns and transfer histories. If we detect suspicious activity, we block the user from moving assets. Along with the above methods, we are in continuous productive dialogue with government regulators and law enforcement and update our procedures based on their instruction. Crypto exchanges have extremely advanced technology and effective procedures for enforcing AML and sanctions. Recent public assertions that crypto is an effective means of evading sanctions due to the lack of industry regulation are without factual support. End thread. Wow.
Thanks for reading it.
They have us all pretty owned here.
I have nothing to say except Brett nailed it.
Yeah. Car, we pull up at Ronin Dojo. I think it's important after reading that thread from these cucked exchanges that we read.
Something. And the Coinbase presser, like, I think if you press Control F and type in share with government, they said like so many times how much information they share with the government over and over again.
Not really lying. Yes, that right there, Car. That photo.
I just Cyberpunk Manifesto.
Yeah. So everyone is talking about Joe Biden's executive order on crypto, and it's the 29th anniversary of Eric Hughes's famous work, A Cyberpunk Manifesto, a timeless piece that is more relevant than ever. And considering we just read that thread from Brett Harrison, the compliance officer at FTX, I think it's important to counteract it with this. Cypherpunks deplore regulations on cryptography, for encryption is fundamentally a private act. The act of encryption, in fact, removes information from the public realm. Even laws against cryptography reach only so far as a nation's border in the arm of its violence. These are cypherpunk technologies.
Everyone should go read the Cyberpunk Manifesto if they haven't. It's a short read. It's like a page. But it's more prescient and important than ever. And I would just say, like, based on these comments I'm seeing coming from the freaks, I just want to be absolutely clear here. Like, yes, FTX and Coinbase laid out their policies and how they enforce them and their surveillance measures. And Coinbase specifically talks about their own in-house surveillance tool and how it's so advanced and it's the best on the market. And they sell that directly to the government. And Coinbase talked about how they use that tool to basically determine other people's identities that are not Coinbase users. It's important to keep in mind here that pretty much every single regulated Bitcoin company is doing these same things or similar things. So this is not unique to FTX and Coinbase.
No. This gets into an interesting discussion too. Like, why? Like, we need to abolish the Bank Secrecy Act. Like, again, these companies are forced.
Tell it to Sam Reed.
Sam Reed, yeah. Yeah, right. So Sam Reed,
co-founder of BitMEX, just pled guilty to Bank Secrecy Act violation.
Yes. The bank, like, so let's get into it. BitMEX. Do you think BitMEX materially harmed any of their customers? So obviously, some customers lost a lot of money, but...
Well, maybe they did, but not for the reasons the government said.
Yeah. So this is actually
like there was some like questionable liquidation scenarios and trading against their users, and with the BitMEX insurance fund just going higher and higher and higher as they were doing it, but definitely not for these reasons.
No. But I tweeted out yesterday, we're going to destroy ESG and then we're going to abolish the Bank Secrecy Act. This is like, we need to get a movement behind this. The Bank Secrecy Act, enacted by Richard Nixon in the 70s, is just thrust a dragnet surveillance system over the financial system. You can't operate as a regulated entity on the global stage anymore. This Bank Secrecy Act has forced countries and regulators all around the world to adjust their regulations and data collection policies, and it all stems from this act that again does not really do anything to perturb criminals from actually uh, enacting the crimes that they want to commit. It's tied very closely to the drug war, which has been an abject failure for a century now, over a century. And it's the Bank Secrecy Act needs to be abolished. That's where a lot of these KYC AML regulations stem from. Is this act specifically? It's time to begin creating a fervor around this particular subject and being more vocal about it. This act is harming more individuals than it is helping prevent crimes. It has erected supranational entities like the Financial Action Task Force and OFAC, which again are forcing these data collection policies on industry players that is putting people in harm's way, and it's perturbing the free market. It's increasing compliance costs and adding a bunch of OpEx to companies that could be better allocated towards more productive endeavors. It's time to begin forcing the conversation of abolishing the Bank Secrecy Act in the public eye. Like people talk about people being one issue voters on Bitcoin. I think I would take a one issue vote stance on abolishing the Bank Secrecy Act. It is uh, definitely a tall order and not going to be easy, but you have to start somewhere, and we should start highlighting that the Bank Secrecy Act is detrimental to human flourishing.
Yeah, I mean, I missed a little bit of that because I was closing the door over there that my dog opened. But the general premise is the Bank Secrecy Act basically criminalizes. It operates under the assumption that financial privacy is inherently criminal, and I think that's an anti-American assumption. And obviously, it creates a massive regulatory burden and cost for businesses that do have to comply with it.
Yes, it's a good segue.
Also, my internet just came back, so I might pause for a second. I'm just gonna switch it back.
Okay. All right. Well, while he's switching back, if you're watching the live stream, you can see on my block clock right here, we're at block 726,746. And if you look up above me, I can't see it anymore, but it was block height 719,300. That is when the Bitcoin Commons was established. Shout out to Tyler from Unchained for getting the sign in the Commons. He's also the gentleman responsible for the lead into the show here. If you're not paying attention, you probably should be. Internet good?
Yes, sir.
I was going to say
Back on fiber.
that Bank Secrecy Act topic is a good segue into the CoinDesk piece that about you and your fight for privacy in the digital age. It was a very good piece.
Thank you. I did that interview late January, before all this other shit went down, just for what it's worth. But yeah, everyone should go read it. It was a good interview. I appreciate Daniel who did the interview.
What is the one message you hope people take away from this interview?
Privacy is important and we should prioritize it. And financial privacy is not a crime. And I do not support money laundering.
You want to explain the last comment?
No,
Okay.
I just don't support money laundering.
Neither do I. We do not support money laundering here at the TFTC, at RHR. Anywhere.
Like this idea that if like people use cash all the time, financial privacy, cash has extremely good privacy guarantees. We should have the same privacy guarantees if you're using digital money, digital cash. And that should not be considered criminal behavior by itself. Criminals will also use similar tools. You can police them with good old-fashioned police work, just like you've always done in the past, in a cash-based economy.
And then it's just like completely hypocritical too. Like the people at the top who are enacting these laws. I mean, we've seen the insider trading on Capitol Hill. We know that Hunter Biden has a financial stake in Gazprom, which is a, a big player in the situation unfolding in Russia and Ukraine. We know that Joe Biden has financial ties to some of these companies, the big guy. We know that politicians throughout time have these people don't follow their own laws that they write and force onto the rest of us. They are abject hypocrites, and again, they are detrimental to human flourishing and a quality of life on this planet. They do not care about you. They do not give a fuck about you. These laws do not protect you. They make you worse off, and they make you a slave in the digital age. This is all the Bank Secrecy Act and everything that has stemmed from it has done. It has erected a digital panopticon that you're being continually herded into, and you're told it's to protect you. It's to protect you. We're here for your protection, but it's really to enslave you. And unless you begin fighting back, speaking up about it, and adopting Bitcoin and holding it yourself, you're going to become a slave in the digital age. It's happening right before your eyes. Are you going to fight back? Or are you going to sit there and let them do it to you? Do you have autonomy? Do you have freedom? Not right now, but you can get it. You got
Data
to fight for
slaves.
it.
And it's important to realize that's not just governments. It's governments working hand in hand with corporations that are monetizing us. Like we're essentially
Literal,
like data cattle.
literal fascism and the convergence of the state and technocracy, corporations, is how Mussolini defined fascism. We live in a fascist world. We always talk about fascist state, individual, like people like Putin's a dictator, Maduro's bad, we didn't like Saddam Hussein. It's everywhere. Fascism is here in the United States as well. It's just wears a different mask, and it looks a bit more polished and less abrasive.
Yeah, but there are nuances there, Marty.
Yes, there are, but
like we could not have this podcast under Saddam Hussein's rule.
no, but
we'd already be in the gulag.
This podcast, they're trying to cancel it. So,
I mean, I would not. I think there's a false equivalency. Just be
well. We're on the path towards that. Would you deny that?
Like, I don't even think we could have this podcast in Russia.
No, but
we definitely couldn't have this podcast in Venezuela.
They want to get there, Matt. They're pushing us towards that. And you either talk about it now, or we are not allowed to talk about it when it finally gets to that point. And we're playing checkers in the gulag. Wonder when we're gonna get our next.
We'd be playing chess. Checkers is
they don't they don't want you. They want you dumb. You got to play checkers. They're not even gonna allow you to play chess. You get to play checkers once a day between your bug patties. We already talked about it. Senators looking to lock down Russia's gold. Again, just forcing them away from dollar hegemony. The dollar is dead. Again, we'll look back in history and we'll pinpoint like the last 2 weeks as the official death of the dollar as the world reserve currency. Zoltan, who's a much vaunted is the word I'm looking for, analyst from Credit Suisse who talks about global currency markets and bond markets. He came out with a piece essentially saying that the dollar is dead. There's no turning back from the events of the last 2 weeks. We're going to have Bretton Woods 2, essentially, where the world is going to Bretton Woods 3, excuse me, where the world is going to begin deciding what is the next world reserve currency, what is the landscape of the currency markets, the international currency markets look like. Now that the U.S. dollar is not the reserve currency, he mentions Bitcoin at the end of this letter. If it survives,
is straight up the mandible scenario on this piece.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot operate moving forward under the assumptions that we were just weeks ago in terms of global currency, bond, commodities markets. Everything has changed.
I thought it was interesting. A couple takeaways from this piece. First of all, he talks about commodity-backed currencies, whether that's gold or another commodity or a basket of commodities. At the end, he mentions Bitcoin, and he says the exact words were, what car is scrolling really slowly?
Up.
But The exact words
Right there.
were,
And
and
Bitcoin, if it still exists, then will probably benefit from all of this.
which, so the thing I wanted to say here is, first of all, it's crazy that Bitcoin's even a part of this conversation. Just shows how far we've come and how mature it is, that it's actually like on the macro. It's as part of the macro conversation. The second part is, if it still exists, then, and like that's our alpha right there. Like, most people that are paying attention to this shit do not think Bitcoin has what it takes to still exist. And I expect Bitcoin to completely outlive us. So if we are correct here, that is our alpha. Our alpha is that the overwhelming majority of money managers and people that have money to deploy have not deployed it into Bitcoin yet. And that is to our advantage.
That is to our advantage, I agree, but we could also increase our alpha and increase the probability that Bitcoin still exists when this is all said and done. Get your coins off the exchanges, learn how to run a node. If you're a miner, try to granularly distribute your hash rate more, geographically distribute it. We can bolster the network to increase the probability of Bitcoin success. And it's first thing you can do is get your coins off an exchange. Do not let the supply of Bitcoin get somewhat centralized in the hands of these exchanges that are easily co-optable by the government.
Avoid KYC, learn privacy best practices, hold your own keys, use your own node.
What do we got next? Oh, I like this. New initiative to roll out mesh nets in Ukraine. So they're Lola Leets. Was a privacy cypherpunk enthusiast, and she covers a lot of what's going on.
She's a Lightning developer.
And a Lightning developer is building. She has a thread about building a mesh net in Ukraine. Starlink's involved. There's an explanation. Before we dive into the particulars of the mesh net, why are we using Knitter now? What is the Knitter? This popped
Knitter's
up.
a non-tracking Twitter.
Okay.
Like, if you just take any Twitter link and you put knitter.net in it, where twitter.com is, the link will show up without tracking, without sign-in. Now, like, Twitter's doing, like, if you don't have a Twitter account and you click a Twitter link on desktop, it'll like ask you to sign in. They won't show you the actual tweet. So not only are they tracking it, but they're like locking it down. So Knitter gets around that. Lola's fucking awesome. I love her content. I appreciate her work. And so the guys at LNP BP Standards Association are basically running a fundraiser in Bitcoin so that they can deploy mesh nets across Ukraine, because a lot of the internet's cut out in Ukraine right now.
Yes, as you can see, if you scroll down just a little bit, there's the NetBlocks chart that shows that internet capacity fell by 50%, what looks to be like 50% at some point over the last week. Props where props are due to Elon Musk. I know we shit on him for Tesla and the subsidies and the LARPing, but Starlink is very interesting. SpaceX is very interesting, and he sent a bunch of Starlink receivers to Ukraine, and they're deploying those, and it is good to see it. I mean, you can route around the state with these new ways of accessing the internet, and so props where props are due. With that being said, too, now props where props are due in the ESG thing. You had Mark Andreessen, who's the general partner at A16Z, which is a crypto, or it's not even crypto, they have crypto funds, but they're VC, and a lot, and they've been posturing against proof of work and to cater to ESG narratives in the past. Mark Andreessen's become like a very anti-ESG over the last couple weeks due to the obvious shortcomings of our energy infrastructure caused by that movement. Elon Musk even came out against ESG and its craziness. I think he was referencing specifically the fact that arms dealers are going to be positive in it from an ESG perspective because they're supporting Ukraine. And it's just funny to see all these LARPers come out of the woodwork and try to save face when it becomes obvious that this stuff is insane. ESG is completely communistic. It is completely nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. It is not profitable. It will not usher in a utopia, which it hopes to do is nothing more than a marketing scheme for middlemen to scam more fees via funds that are able to trade at a premium because they get this certification, which is completely stupid. If you're in the Bitcoin industry, specifically Bitcoin miners, stop catering to ESG. You look like an idiot. You look like a cuck. Stop it. Your dog's always like barking during the show.
I know, and the door's closed too. I think she knows when I'm recording.
Does she want to come on and talk?
And she is right now. Cameo.
Do we only have one software update this week?
Yeah.
Bisq. Version 1.8.4. I downloaded the Zeus wallet too on iOS. Shout out
It's
to
so sexy. The new fucking UI is so fucking nice.
shout out to Evan and team. You guys have made a bang up app. I will
There's
be using it.
there's pretty much no other mobile wallet that comes close to Zeus in terms of using it with your own node at home. I use Zeus all the time. It's fucking fire.
Yeah.
What were you using before that, Zap?
Yeah, which I shouldn't have been doing. Because
But Bisq v 1.8.4 automatically deletes sensitive trade data after a trade is completed. It's the big change.
pretty big upgrade there. It's good to see. Delete that data. What do we got next? There's a big list. Big list this week. Foundation Devices teases their new hardware and app, unveiling Passport Batch 2 and Envoy mobile app. With Batch 2 and Envoy, we will build an intuitive and highly secure Bitcoin self-custody experience. We're beyond excited to share all the details with you today. We're going to link to that. I'm in contact with Zach. Zach, your response. We will schedule a call to talk about what you guys are building. Have you tested this out?
It's not shipped yet.
Have you tested out the first version?
Yeah, I have one.
What are your thoughts on
it? It feels nice in the hand. I don't use it to store any Bitcoin. The new model looks sexy. At least the renders or pictures or whatever those are. The app looks interesting. Supposedly it's going to be open source. GPL code hasn't been released yet. It's more of like I guess the mobile app is like a single sig. It's a single sig wallet. Plus you can use it to set up your foundation device, your passport. It's Tor by default if you use their node and servers, or you can connect to your own servers. What else? They made it cheaper than the last one. The last one was pretty expensive. And cheaper, thinner, lighter. The supposedly they're still using the same secure element, and I've heard some shit about that secure element being compromised, but we'll see. I have no details, and I look forward to getting my hands on this one.
it? I'm sorry, I got messages.
But yeah, this isn't shipped yet. It's pre-order, and Envoy app isn't shipped yet either.
Beware. Zach will talk.
I guess it's gonna be $199 pre-order, and then rate goes up to $229.
That hardware, Bitcoin and U.S. national security, and assessment of Bitcoin as a strategic opportunity for the United States. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Matthew Pines last night at a Galaxy Digital event here in Austin. We had a great conversation. Really good dude.
Yeah, Pines is great. Really smart.
Yeah. He knows his shit. And it's interesting how they're framing. I really like how he described how they're trying to frame this stuff on Capitol Hill. And last week I said we talked about like, and we mentioned it earlier with the exchanges posturing like it doesn't help evade sanctions, but again, like it does if you do it correctly. It just takes one transaction to prove that wrong. However, I do agree. Like it is, Bitcoin is a matter of national security. It is becoming glaringly obvious that the U.S. status as global reserve currency is completely evaporating in front of our eyes. We're going to need to, as a country, transition to something else. And do you want to transition to a CBDC? Do you want to transition to a digital yuan, a digital ruble, a gold-backed ruble, gold-backed yuan? No. How could you counterpunch the countries that are political sphere or war machine sphere views as adversaries? How if you actually want to throw a wrench in their plans, adopting Bitcoin is actually the smartest move you can make to throw a wrench in the plans of China and Russia trying to create their own gold-backed digital currency or whatever they're trying to usher the world into as the U.S. dollar loses its reserve currency status of the world. If you really wanted to make a bold move, you would encourage Bitcoin adoption by American citizens and encourage industry to grow around the Bitcoin protocol here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me, just because CBDCs are a topic of conversation, and it was a topic on the executive order as well from Biden, that like this idea that like what makes Bitcoin special is the fact that it's digital is it's just completely misguided. Like these CBDCs don't change anything from a fiat point of view. It's the same trust issues. It's the same fiat issues that we have with the current systems. If anything, in a lot of ways, it makes it worse because it adds easier seizures, easier surveillance, easier debasement of the currency. So yeah, so this whole idea that CBDCs can ever compete with Bitcoin, they can't by design, because the whole point of a CBDC is that they're controlled by a centralized party, the central bank, hence the CB part of DC.
Yes. Digital enslavement tools. That's what a CBDC is. I mean, they've come out. Actually, Majid, who was on the Rogan podcast, he actually quote tweeted one of my CBDC tweets from like the summer of 2021, which was a video of Augustin Carstens, the head of the Bank of International Settlements, coming out and saying exactly what they want to do with the CBDC. Like these people are telling you what they want to do with these CBDCs, which is granularly control you and make you a digital slave. They don't like that. They don't have control of how people spend a $100 bill. They want to.
You realize everyone's already a digital slave, right?
Yes. I mentioned that earlier. There's ways out now. Like us slaves, we have a way to get off. This digital.
And Facebook's digital enslavement, Twitter's digital enslavement, iPhones are digital enslavement, Google's digital enslavement, Amazon's digital enslavement.
We have ways out. There's degrees of that enslavement, and we have ways out. Bitcoin is one of them. That's why we're sitting here talking about it. We have ways out now. If we don't act, they may not be there in the future. They're going to be very hard to access in the future. Yeah. What else do we have here? How to buy, earn, and spend KYC-free Bitcoin.
Fuck you, Ty.
Mustaches are digital enslavement. Ty was here last week.
Ty was here.
So this is by
Love you, Ty.
This is an article by Anarchio Crypto. How to buy, earn, and spend KYC free Bitcoin and Monero without ID or a bank account. So
this was a really good write-up. People should check it out. Sometimes I just put like good write-ups on the bottom that we don't even really need to talk about. Like I put one also, Ministry of Nodes, starting your Bitcoin journey. Our boys Katan and Stefan over at Ministry of Nodes put out a really good piece. Anarchio Crypto put out a really good piece. So go check those out.
the Cathedra Bitcoin team put out a really good shareholder letter this week
Yeah, but I
disclaimer.
figured we'd talk about that.
Okay. I thought you were just throwing that at the
I
end.
I didn't intentionally jump. I intentionally jumped over it because I figured we'd have a conversation about it. It was a really great piece, and you're on the Cathedra team. Well done.
I mean, I can't take any credit for it other than finding AJ and Drew. Um, yeah, so AJ and Drew have been working on the shareholder letter for some time, and I think it's biased, obviously, but I also think it's incredibly well done. They paint the picture of what they want to build Cathedra into. They believe that sound money and energy abundance in the digital age is an imperative. They have very critical commentary on the history of monetary and energy policy in the United States over the last 5 decades specifically. They believe that the Fed has destroyed our money and that uh, ill-informed energy policy is making us less secure as a nation. Bitcoin is a tool and a vehicle which could help us in both areas, make monetary policy better by ushering in an apolitical, sound, distributed monetary system that, via proof of work mining, incentivizes the production and proliferation of abundant and cheap energy sources. And I really like what they did in this piece, particularly by framing it. We have two mindsets that we can decide to go down. We can be Malthusian, which believes that humans are bad and there should be less of us and we should use less and not harness our ingenuity and innovation to make the world a better place. We should just kill ourselves and limit the amount of people that live on the planet. This dude literally believed this. He believed that we should. Thomas Malthus was an economist in the 1700s who literally thought you should raise food prices on poor people so they couldn't eat and they would die. And then we had the Promethean view of the future, which doesn't see human flourishing as a zero to negative sum game, but a positive sum game where we're able to actually use our resources that we have at our fingertips to become more productive and to increase the quality of life for everyone. And we can support more people. We can figure out a way to flourish on this planet as the population grows. And that's what future do you want? Do you want to be a Malthusian who believes that humans are bad, that we should die off? Or do you want to be a Promethean, believing that we're incredible, we can do really cool things, and we can make the world a better place, and that we have the intellect, the capacity, and the ability to make the world an awesome place? That's what Cathedra wants to do, and we're going to go try to make that happen. And Bitcoin and energy are very important on making that view of the future materialize. So I'm very pumped to be a part of the Cathedra team on the board there. AJ and Drew are really fucking smart, as you may be able to tell by reading this letter. They're very passionate. They're young. They're hungry, and they execute.
Love those guys.
Yeah, shout out
to them, and great shareholder letter.
Yeah.
I don't usually read shareholder letters, but that was a good one.
Hey.
Yeah, go.
I was gonna say we're just trying to communicate with our shareholders here.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not a shareholder, and I read the letter, which is, I was glad I read it. It was very good.
Thank you.
I have two pieces here. One on Bitcoin and the Cuban embargo, written by this Bitcoin founder in Cuba who's going to be speaking at Bitcoin 2022. I thought it was a really interesting piece. I mean, we talk about a lot about Russia and Canada and Ukraine, but like the Cuban people have been suffering under embargo for many years, decades, and similar situation for them, right, where they can't use traditional financial rails in terms of American companies, and Bitcoin gives them an option, gives them an option where there is no other option. So love to see it. I suggest everyone go read that.
Then there was another one on Afghans, right?
Yeah, this one's interesting. Did you see this one?
I've not read it yet, no.
It doesn't actually talk about Bitcoin. But like, there's it's behind a paywall.
Imagine if you pay 10 cents worth of sats just to read this right
Or you
away.
could also just go to archive.org and see it.
That as well.
The crux of it is that there's basically like these withdrawal limits at their banks, so they have all this cash in their bank accounts that they can't get, which is a tragedy. And Bitcoin can help mitigate that if you hold your own keys and use Bitcoin in a circular economy.
Yeah. Let's get the circular economy going, freaks. You wanted to do an early rip today. Do you have obligations this afternoon?
Yeah, but I'm not going to talk about them on air.
We don't need to.
But yeah, I do. Thank you for doing an early rip. There's one other piece here. Secret surveillance program collects Americans' money transfer data.
Yeah, this is they had to admit to this, right? Didn't they like subpoena?
Yeah, it was like a Freedom of Information Act, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're digital slaves. They're taking our data. We know all this. We talk about it week in and week out.
But I think it was like any payment over $500 between the U.S. and Mexico was being tracked and tagged and surveilled without
due process,
any authorization.
Yeah, they don't care about you, freaks. You don't have the right to privacy. You don't have the right to freedom in the digital age. You are a cattle. You better be a good cattle.
Isn't it cow?
Cattle, cow.
Isn't it cattle plural? Can you be a cattle?
Cows? A cattle. Yeah, you can.
I don't think you can be a cattle.
We might. We're gonna have to go. I would say duck, go it.
Is Jebby still here? Jebby, go look it up.
You could just type in cattle and see what Google. Let's see what Google
use DuckDuckGo. Even with the DuckDuckGo's new policy, it's still better than Google. Like fuck it. Google tracks you and does even more censorship.
No, just type in cattle.
That's such a good DuckDuckGoose. Cattles or cows is what he just searched.
Cow or cows. I can't read it. Just go back. Go to the dictionary.com. The second one.
Did you see Dreaman's comment? If we're gonna fact check Marty's grammar, RHR will be 5 hours minimum.
I can't say anything in defense of that. Domesticated quadrupeds held as property or raised for use. Bovine animals on a farm or ranch. Yeah, it's a plural noun.
Full-time Bitcoin. Cow is in general use as a singular for the collective cattle. The word cow is easy to use when a singular is needed and the sex is unknown or irrelevant. When there is a cow in the road, for example.
Interesting. But I think I used cattle correctly in the plural, saying you all are digital cattle. I'm speaking.
You said a cattle. You said you are a cattle.
Oh, yeah, you are a cow.
I don't know. I'm just fucking.
You all are cattle.
Yeah, that's what you meant to say.
In the mind.
I don't know.
Of
it's been a long day.
The government.
Completely inconsequential, but I'm glad we looked it up. And now us and the freaks know.
You come here, you learn something new week in and week out. This is our 190th rip. Times are getting heavy. Ha! The U.S. dollar reserve currency status is dead. Commodities prices are going crazy. Energy prices are going to continue to go up. CPI print today was 7.9%, and that was severely underreported. Go shake your rancher's hand. Go say what's up to your neighbors. If you guys are in a fight, squash the beef. Figure out how you're going to work together, how you're going to support each other. Stack sats, get them into wallets you control. Lock down some water. And begin speaking out against the insanity that's being thrust upon us by our incompetent government, our fascist overlords that are ruining the world and forcing you further into the panopticon. You cow, you all are cattle.
Love your freaks. Stay humble and stack nickel.
Peace and love.